Hi, and welcome to our next executive interview series. Today we have Julie Phillips, who's the CEO of Opal Biosciences. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm very excited to have you on. Obviously, I've been following the Opal Bioscience story for quite some time now, and we've been fortunate enough to have many of our subscribers sort of participate in your company at different phases as far as on the investor stage. And what I've always loved about sort of watching you in action, you always just keep progressing the business stage by stage. And this, and obviously today I want to talk to you about your capital raising, number one, but also your acquisition that you're working on with Formulitica. So sort of as a starting point, do you want to give a bit of a background to Opal and then also give some insights into what is the sort of driving force behind the acquisition of Formulitica?
Certainly, Stephen. Look, thanks so much for the chance to talk to you about this. You know that with Opal Biosciences, we're a public company based in Melbourne, and we've taken a real interest, particularly during the pandemic, in manufacturing and that enormous need in Australia that we all saw. And the acquisition of Formulitica is a huge opportunity for us to fill a market gap. We know that clinical trials are growing in Australia, and we know that the new really revolutionary approach to therapeutics through personalised medicine is another opportunity. And clinical trials obviously are where drugs are tested in man, and personalised medicine is where it's really tailored to an individual treatment, and that's where this enormous growth is. But unfortunately, even with the high growth in these areas, if you're a company or a medical research institute or a researcher and you want to get material made to use for personalised medicines or to use in early phase, particularly clinical trials where a lot of those treatments are injectables, it's really hard to get them made to the quality standards that you need in Australia. So here we are, we've got market growth in clinical trials and personalised medicines. We've got the Medical Research Future Fund and lots of great innovation in Australia. But where do you get it made to take it into patients? So we've got, with clinical trials, we've got more than 7% growth per annum that we're seeing. We're getting more than 10% growth with personalised medicine. The growth's coming from companies coming to Australia as well as local companies. They're able to access the federal government's R&D Tax Incentive. So to be able to get your material made in Australia gives you the opportunity to access that as well. But there's also the revolution in new treatments in personalised medicine, so specific cancer treatments. And there's the government focus to try to encourage onshore manufacturing. So why Formulitica? Well, Formulitica, we've known that company for quite a while, and they're a group of scientists that are highly innovative. They're internationally recognised, and they want to expand from what they do currently into this area, and we can help them do that.
So why do you think, I find it interesting when I hear that, because I remember you first, when we first talked about this, I actually thought to myself, why is it that it is so hard, for basically a company like Formulitica? Because I imagine there's a whole bunch of IP, there's a whole bunch of, I suppose, trade secrets around what they do. But from what I understand, there really isn't that many places to go in Australia.
No, that's right. And so from my own experience and from Formulitica's clients' experience that they hear, a lot of companies have got to go overseas to get the quality of the manufacturing that you need to be able to inject into humans. And there's a lot of regulation around that space that comes from the TGA and FDA, and the number of places in Australia where you can go, particularly for small batch. When you want to do big batch runs, then you can go to some of the bigger contract research groups and contract manufacturing groups. But when you just want to do small batches, that's where it becomes really tricky. And it's a bit crazy, isn't it, that you've got to spend a lot of money to do a small batch and have to go overseas with all the complexity that's around that. So now with the growth in clinical trials, particularly early stage, and with the growth in personalised medicine, it just creates that opportunity to be able to do that onshore.
I know you mentioned about the personalised medicine area. That's obviously been a focus of ours now for the last, I think, 2 years as an area of interest. And if anyone sort of follows Kathy Wood from ARK Invest, she's obviously focused around on that as a strong growth area for them, you know, with I suppose the developments in the areas of genomics and so forth. So it's exciting to hear you talk about and the connection to Opal and obviously the Formulitica deal with it. Now, second thing I'd love to understand from you is what are some of the, I suppose, the benefits and synergies that come with this acquisition?
Well, the synergies are that we've got already a revenue generating formulation development company based in Mulgrave. So that's already operating. And so what the synergy is that we can help through our public company structure and our group with manufacturing experience to just help them go to that next level. And through our expansion into Perth, we can build onto their existing business this additional capability, which is complementary. It's totally complementary. So you can take material that's being tested preclinically, so perhaps in animals, and then you can do all the work that's required for that. And based on the results of those studies, you can then move into the clinical formulation and development space, and then into manufacture. And as I said, Formulitica are really internationally recognized for their ability to deal with complex molecules. And just to your point before about other companies getting into personalized medicines, we've had people very excited about the prospect that we're going to set up. And it includes some of the medical research institutes that have had to go overseas otherwise to get their material made. So it sort of reinforces the market need that we saw.
Well, from a thesis perspective, I think that the timing is spot on, is because if you think about healthcare in general, like this is the opportunity for the next decade, really. And that's super exciting. Now, obviously, you know, one of the things that you announced recently was that you received a $5 million grant from the Western Australian government. Can you give some sort of insights into that grant and I suppose the purpose for that funding?
Look, thanks for the question. We were incredibly fortunate to be awarded that grant. The Western Australian government is very keen to build the life sciences ecosystem. They've got some great technology that's come out of Perth. Some FDA-approved gene therapy treatments have come out of Western Australia. And so Perth, the WA government sees the opportunity to grow that high-value exercise. And also, because of their proximity to Asia, Singapore is 5 hours away, you know, Sydney and Melbourne 9. So there's a lot of opportunity to grow into the Indian basin to also get extra overseas clients to come into Perth. And that's already happening. They have linear clinical research, which does the clinical trial work there. And they've got UWA. In fact, we've got a grant application that was just lodged yesterday for a CRC application to work with the University of Western Australia on a lung cancer vaccine project using mRNA. They've got Telethon Kids doing a whole range of things, including in tackling infection in children and using vaccines to do that. So that all fits beautifully together. And so the grant will be used, it's a $5 million grant, which requires match funding. Some of that will come from our capital raise and some will come from revenue generation from Formulitica already. Over the period of 5 years to build and fit out a facility to do this manufacturing and fill finish, which is sort of the final stage that you need to do for sterile injectables. So we'll use both the Mulgrave team in Victoria to do some formulation development, as well as the manufacturing group to be based in Perth. We've got a site identified. So we're ready to go once we complete this capital raise.
And I suppose two questions I'd like to ask, and I suppose this is from a pragmatic investor perspective, is one, you mentioned about how companies currently now, they would look to go sort of overseas to do these type of trials. How much money can they save? Because this, I suppose, speaks to the product opportunity. How much money can they save sort of by using a company like Formulitica instead? That's question one. And then question two, with the new Perth facility, how much does that potentially expand the revenue opportunity for the combined entities?
Well, just looking at the ability to do the work onshore, the R&D tax incentive, if you're a company that's eligible for the cash rebate, gives you 43.5% back on what's eligible expenditure here. We know that in April last year, the federal government announced the clinical trial determination, which means that if you've got a clinical trial program which is eligible under the guidelines, you're automatically eligible for the R&D tax incentive. And so we know that's already having some impact. So there's the comparison of the costs, like you not only have the quality work being done in Australia, but you can also get the rebate by doing the work in Australia.
With the new Perth facility, how much does that expand, I suppose, the revenue potential, of the combined entities?
Because the Mulgrave facility is quite landlocked, that just constrained where they are. The Perth facility, as people that have been to Perth would know, there's a lot more space there. And so the opportunity to expand, and we're thinking about expanding into GMP topical, so creams, ointments, sort of thing as well. There's a massive opportunity to do that. So to actually talk about the revenue generation, we'd be looking at growing to at least doubling or trebling what is currently being done in Formulitica. And we also believe that we'll be able to do that supplemented by some grants that the federal government's rolling out, for example, through the MRFF, because it's targeting exactly what it is that we're doing to assist companies get their research from the lab bench to patients.
You mentioned that Formulitica is already working with companies and they're getting approaches by international companies. What are some of those companies they're working with? Because I suppose that really does speak to the quality of their work.
Well, the Formulitica team has been together for quite a while. And so in their current iteration as Formulitica, they're working with some Singapore research institutes. They've been working with a lot of international clients, including some US mid-sized pharma companies. They've worked with a range of Australian companies, including some personal care products. And our investor presentation actually has the showcase of some of those products that have been formulated and launched, and also some mid-sized pharma companies. Formulitica doesn't just do the analytics and the pharmaceutical formulation and stability testing and all the usual sorts of things that are required for a TGA or an FDA dossier to get a product approved. But they also do troubleshooting. So people have got a complex molecule and they can't get it into solution in order to be able to use it in preclinical or clinical testing. So they have a range of problem-solving skills that have really come from their background, being together for quite a few years. And they also do training as well. And we see that as an opportunity in Perth as well. We want to grow manufacturing in Australia, but where are those skilled workers going to come from? And that was something which is attractive to Western Australia, the ability to include training. And also, it will grow our own workforce.
And would there be any other, I suppose you've just highlighted some of them now, which sort of, I suppose, brings up the question, any other sort of key IP assets that you'll be bringing in together as sort of part of this?
Well, interestingly, Formulitica is not just a contract pharmaceutical support company, for companies that don't have their own research group in-house. But they are also very innovative. So they've already got a set of patents and one's being commercialised that's their own patents, but they are inventors on some of their clients' patents as well. So that's an opportunity that we see, particularly in Perth, is the ability to get into vaccine and sterile product formulation, and to get a library of formulations that can be used perhaps for different sorts of mRNA vaccines, as an example. So researchers don't have to necessarily go through sometimes the difficulty of finding that they've got a great idea, but the material that they need to use with the vaccine is covered by other people's IP. So what we're looking to do is to develop a library of off-the-shelf vehicles, they're called, or solvents that could be used in different vaccines, and that would also accelerate development of people's projects.
So basically, Julie, I'll go through the summary of this entire conversation, and I'll give you an opportunity to mention anything else you'd love to about it. But effectively, the combined entities of Opal and Formulitica is you're effectively acquiring a business where obviously there's got a very unique specialty. It brings a lot more sort of opportunities onshore again to Australia. More importantly, there's the opportunity to double and triple the revenue as far as with the monies from the Western Australian government grant, and also the new manufacturing facility. Plus, with that work being done for clients, those clients have the ability to get the R&D, a 43.5% rebate for the work that they do with you as well, which obviously encourages to keep it onshore and encourages additional development and discovery as well. And then combined with that, there's a highly specialized team that have been together is it longer than a decade that they've been together?
Yes.
Yeah. So really, as far as all the elements for foundations for what could be seen as an exciting growth futures sort of sits inside the two entities coming together. Is there anything I've missed in that summary?
Look, I think it's just the excitement of the prospect of being able to take great medical research that comes from Australia and actually taking it right through to patients. We need to keep the value of Australian taxpayer-funded research onshore longer to boost the value rather than lose it overseas. So I think it's very exciting, and I'm thrilled that we were able to get the WA government grant, and very keen to get this show on the road. And we've got a lot of people that are very interested to see how they can use our new capabilities.
Fantastic. And the other part I love is that you're attracting international companies to do more work in Australia as well, which, obviously we're passionate about that as well. So on a final note, I just want to say thank you so much, Julie. Super excited to be working with you on this as an opportunity. For investors, if you want to find out more information about it, obviously Opal's got a deal room set up inside Chris, but they've got all the information and all the details. You may be watching this before or after. We are going to be hosting an information session with Julie shortly, where she can go through any questions, do Q&A, and also provide a bit more detail as well on the sort of on Opal and the acquisition of Formulitica itself. Thank you so much, Julie. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.